What is up, W Sports Podcast? Jimothy and Tubby, we are back again for, I believe this is 3.0 of our NFL draft prep. And today we're talking about the linemen, the guys in the trenches who are constantly making battles winnable for their teams. It's like the Detroit Lions, rebuilt from the inside out. And that's why today's episode is so important. And we got the number one ranker in all of draft football. We got Tubby. Welcome back to the show.
What's up? Yeah, I've been going deep. If you've been noticing, there has been a couple of draft videos out. Got another one coming out tomorrow, and we'll probably have 3 more coming out next week.
Let's go. So if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single video that drops, especially as we're in draft month officially. Tubby's rocking the Packers hat because, this year that's what the draft is at. It's in Green Bay.
It is.
I'm still not officially sure how they're going to host. Like a city that small is going to host that many fans. Detroit and Kansas City are the first 2 cities that really did this. Much bigger metropolitan areas. But, hey, I have no doubt the NFL will get it done.
Yeah, Green Bay will find some way.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting for the lodging. Where are they going to put everyone?
Yeah, I don't know. Milwaukee. There's a good chance. So as we go into today's episode, maybe you were hoping to get some skill positions, maybe some of the other players. Don't worry, we have done those. You can actually see in the same playlist that this one is going to be on. So you'll be able to watch all those previous ones. And make sure you put your comments in the comment section for any of the guys that you're hoping your team goes after, especially if it's late round guys, if you really want people to trade up, anything like that. We'd love to have your thoughts, kind of compare them to Tubby. Tubby will give you a good solid idea of those. And if you came here for baseball, don't worry, we have baseball, and that is in our early week episode as we recap the last week, look forward to the next week, things like that. So rhythm of 2 episodes, that's kind of where we're at right now. So Tubby, let's get to it. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right, we're going to start with the offensive line. I feel like right now in the NFL draft, it's quarterbacks, it's wide receivers, it's edge rushers, and tackles. Those are the 4 things that you typically see. And maybe you might see a 5th. I would lean towards a corner, not even a safety, but specifically cornerbacks. Those are the places where you see teams have to get it right. So let's start this. Who is the guy or 2 guys that are, hey, you're going to get it right if you get them?
Yeah, we're talking strictly real fast, just the offensive tackle position. It's Will Campbell. Will Campbell, to me, I don't care about the arm length. The athleticism is there. He can still play tackle. He, to me, is probably the 2nd best player in this draft behind Travis Hunter. I have him ahead of Abdul Carter. I like Abdul Carter, and I like what he could potentially bring. But I think Will Campbell is one of those surefire offensive linemen that it's going to be hard to miss on, because even granted, if he can't play tackle, the guy is going to be an exceptional guard in the NFL. So I have him, and I know there's a lot of people that have Armand Mimbo now ranked ahead of Kelvin Banks, and I'm still not completely sold on Mimbo. He's moved up a little bit for me, but I'm still not completely there. I still have Kelvin Banks as the 2nd best offensive tackle in this draft. I think the size, the ability that he has, I think that he can be a really good left tackle in the NFL also. The thing about Mimbo is that, granted, he started a lot of games, but this is really the first season he's ever really done anything real productive, and that worries me that we see this every year. One of these guys have really productive, and they're like, oh, he's a big offensive lineman, he's athletic, shoot up the draft board, and then they just fall flat on their face.
Yeah, and that's what you had to worry about. But he has played against the SEC with the production, which I think holds well for him. Not only that, size-wise, he's very similar to these guys. But Will Campbell is the biggest. I mean, this dude is absolute rock. I think, no doubt, he's who I expected you to have number 1. And then 1, 2, 3, all 3 of those guys look like they're probably going to go in the top half of day 1. Would you say?
Yeah, I would imagine all 3 of these guys will be gotten by pick 15.
Yeah, and that's what I would see too. So, who are maybe some of the guys that are falling the most right now? That maybe some of there's some cracks in the armors or whatever you want to say. That whether it's combine or just bad senior years, but they're still out there. Maybe project piece.
So, Connerly has fallen a little bit. He's still projected in the top, half of the 2nd round. I still really like Josh Connerly. I think that he can be a good NFL player. He's just a little bit more raw than these other guys. he started falling a little bit. Logan Brown is another one from Kansas where he was high at the beginning of the season, and now he's probably somewhere around 10 or 11 in the offensive tackle range. I still think that there's some expectations that I think he could develop into a solid NFL player, but his stock fell a lot like a lot of Kansas players did because of the early troubles that they had this year.
Yeah, two very different halves of the season for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I like that. How about maybe one of the, let's say you've talked a little bit about the tackles, any of the centers or interior linemen specifically that you'd like to highlight when looking at the draft prospects?
So the interior is actually, I think, a little bit deeper than a lot of people are given credit for this year. Kind of a lot, I think, like the wide receivers, where there's going to be a lot of depth within this. Maybe not the high end interior, unless you're looking at Will Campbell to move him to the inside.
Yeah.
But Gray Zabel from North Dakota State, to me, is the best interior offensive lineman. I know a lot of people really like Tyler Booker, but we all know my philosophy when it comes to Alabama offensive linemen. I don't take them.
I don't take them.
But Gray Zabel, I mean, the thing about him is he can play anywhere along the offensive line. He's played left tackle in college. He's played guard. He can play center. He can play anywhere along that offensive line. And I think that he'll probably end up at center in college or in the NFL, and he's going to be a really, really good center. He reminds me a lot of Graham Barton of last year from Duke, where you can play him anywhere, and wherever you play him, he's going to be good. And so someone's going to get them a really good interior offensive lineman there. Donovan Jackson from Ohio State is another one I'm really high on. He moved a lot better than I expected at the combine. He was someone that I wasn't quite sure of because the Ohio State offense line has been a little shaky the last couple of years, but I think that he's really proved himself. And I really like Emory Jones from LSU also.
Yeah. How are your thoughts? I know you already mentioned one of the FCS opponents, but some of the smaller school guys, are you a little less likely to be interested? Or are you more likely that, hey, it needs to be a day 3 type guy?
Yeah, for me, watching like the Senior Bowl and stuff, these guys from the FCS, besides Gray Zabel, really struggled against the higher, prospect players, from the Power 5 or Power 4. And they didn't really show me enough where I would be willing to take them day 2. I think a lot of them are going to be, day 3s for sure, where I think that someone's going to get someone and maybe they can turn them into, something good. Because you always see that happen where these, small school guys go late in the draft, especially offensive line, and they can, set a year or so, learn, play against, better competition and practices and stuff, and then eventually turn into a good offensive lineman. So there's none of them this year that I would take high, but, day 3, take a chance, roll the dice on, I definitely would.
All right, so build me the perfect draft. You get 3 drafts. You get day 1, day 2, day 3. Offensive line, who would you want to take in a perfect world?
In a perfect world. So, I mean, if I had my first choice, I'm taking Will Campbell. I think Will Campbell is the best offensive lineman, period, in like I said, number 2 player on my big board. And I'm going to go Josh Conerly. He can play either side, left or right tackle. He's sliding to the second round. If I can get him in the second round, I think that's a steal because I really like the upside with him. And then if we're going day 3, I'm going to go with the guy, Miles Frazier from LSU. If you notice something, LSU offensive line was really good. And I think Miles Frazier is someone that has versatility along the interior of the offensive line. And he really showed out at the combine and in the Senior Bowl, really showed his athleticism, did really good against guys like Walter Nolan and, the one-on-one drills who, Nolan's going to be a first-round draft pick. So I think that he kind of proved himself. The fact that he's, probably 7th or 8th, 10th, maybe in that range for the offensive line, I think it's a little too low for him. I think that someone might try to take him a little bit higher, but if I can get him in the 4th, 5th round, I'm happy with that.
I like that. All right, so now we're going to do the final step of this ranking system. Is going to be, this is a 1 to 5 star draft class. What are you going to give this one?
I'm going to give this one a 4.
A 4-star. That's pretty good. I
Yeah,
mean, in the state of what so many teams'
Mhm.
offensive linemen are in the NFL, or lions,
Yeah,
not linemen, excuse me.
yeah,
That is a great sign for
mhm.
so many teams.
Yeah. Like you said, the tackles. There's two really, I think, surefire guys. There's 3 or 4 guys that I think that could really develop into really good ones. And then, like I said, with the interior, I think a lot of people are not looking a whole
Hmm.
lot into this, and I think that it's a lot deeper than people give it credit for.
Hmm. No, I hear you. All right, let's go ahead. We're going to move on now to the defensive line, and that will include edge rushers. In case you
Mm-hmm.
didn't see our linebacker episode, we don't include those edge rushers in the linebackers. We hold them here because that's usually what they're doing is rushing the quarterback. So, tell me,
Yeah,
we're going to start with who are your highlights in this draft class?
I mean Mason Graham, uh, Michigan boy. He's a top 7 player on the big board for me. Some will have him higher, some will have him lower, but what he can do, he's just a game wrecker in the
Mm,
interior. He can play uh, in 3-4 as a defensive end also. So
hmm.
you can play it, he's got that versatility. You don't have to go, oh, well, he's a, 4-3 defensive tackle. No, he can play
Hmm.
3-4 defensive end, and you're going to get really good production out of him. Walter Nolan, he's just, him and Mason Graham, they're a lot of the same. Very explosive off the line of scrimmage, and just always end up in the backfield.
Hmm.
It's pretty uncanny how, similar they are, and you wouldn't think, thinking, oh, Walter Nolan and, Mason Graham. No, they're a lot of the same players. I just think Graham's a little bit more refined, especially on the pass rushing end. And then the one that's getting overlooked a lot, and he's starting to move up the draft boards finally, is Derek Harmon from Oregon.
Oh
He,
yeah, yeah.
he
It's a bigger guy too.
yeah, I mean,
You're
he,
getting some of the interior alignment, and I
yeah,
like that because it so leans
mhm,
heavy on the draft boards to go to those edge rushers. But here
yeah,
you are, yeah, repping it.
yeah. Right now, we're just looking the interior, but the thing is, he's 6'5", 310, 315 pounds, and this man can move and can
Hmm.
get after the quarterback. I'm pretty sure he had 8.5 sacks this year from the interior
Mm.
side of the ball. He, transferred in from Michigan State. He was a big time transfer, but people weren't quite sure what he was going to do, and he just goes out there and just has an incredible season for uh, Oregon and just put up some monster numbers.
Yeah, I guess the Big Ten talent too. I mean,
Yeah.
just still have
Hmm.
to remind ourselves of that part. Okay,
Yeah.
well, I do. I love a lot of that. You didn't really mention Abdul Carter. I mean, so he
I haven't
is
got to the edges yet, though.
okay. So let's go ahead and
Yeah.
now let's move to the edge rushers because otherwise I'm going
Hmm.
to start going to the fall guys. So let's go to the
Yeah.
edge then in that case.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, we've got to talk about Abdul Carter. Some people are going to have him 1. I have him 3 on my board, but I don't think it's, a big, change there. It's a very close 1, 2, 3. He is potentially a Myles Garrett type player. If you look at it, I mean, Micah Parsons, those game wreckers off the edge, where you have to game plan your week on offense to somehow mitigate him
He
getting
is
into
a
the backfield.
problem.
Yeah, and so he is an absolute unit, and I get why he's a little raw, and that's what made me maybe put him down a little bit lower than I think a lot of people would have him. But he is someone that can be a difference maker on your defense, especially once he gets healthy. I
Yeah.
mean, he played a lot of the season banged up and was still incredibly productive.
Let me ask you a quick question on him then.
Mm-hmm.
How is he 2-dimensional or is he 1-dimensional? Like where does he leaning? Because you say he's raw right now
Mm-hmm.
and just the talent profile. Is he more pass rush only, or does he still at the next level in the NFL? Do you see him? No, he's gonna be a factor in the run game just as much. Kind of like a Miles
No,
Garrett.
yeah, no, he's both. When I'm talking about raw, it's more about the technique. He relies a lot on his speed, which the speed is there.
Yeah.
He's gonna have
4-4.
to work. Yeah, he's gonna have to work a little bit more on the pass rush moves off the line. Swim moves. A little spin move or something like that. But he's really good in the run game. Also, it's not just we're looking at someone going, well, he's going to just pin his ears back and just try to go hit the quarterback. No, this guy is really good in the run game, and that's where I think he separates himself from Micah Parsons. Where we've
Hmm.
talked about Micah Parsons, he's really good pass rusher,
Yeah.
but if you want to go at that defense, what do? You run the ball at Micah Parsons,
Hmm.
and that's not what you can do here
Hmm.
because he is a good run defender also off the edge.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's keep moving down the list. Who else you got that's the top tier that you're looking at?
So I've got Mike Green, Marshall kid, young or not? Yeah, he is young.
Yeah.
He's only technically a sophomore, and not a lot of people seen him, but go watch the film. Yeah, he's not playing against the best competition, but when he played against some of those Power 4 schools, this kid he had 22 and a half sacks, I think, this year for Marshall. He's incredibly fast. His 3-cone drill speed at his pro day, I think, was a 4.25, which is up there with wide receiver 3-cone drills, which is insane for a 250-pound man to be able to run, or I should say kid, because he's still probably like 20, 21 years old. And then I think one that's not getting a whole lot of recognition is Nick Scorton from Texas A&M. The transfer from Purdue had a really good year at Texas A&M. I think that he's going to have a much better NFL career than he did, because I think a lot of same with him and Shamar Stewart, which I'm big on Shamar Stewart too. That guy is an absolute animal. If you look at him, picture him and you put Myles Garrett next to each other and they're like the same size. He's that ridiculous. Big, athletic.
But he's huge.
They played out of position somewhat with the scheme of Texas A&M whenever they brought in Mike Elko, and so the numbers weren't quite what you would like to see, but the play is there. And so I think both those Texas A&M guys are a couple that, or at least I know Shamar Stewart has flown up the draft boards.
Yeah.
Scorton hasn't quite got the love I think he deserves.
Yeah. When you're looking at the draft, who maybe one or two guys that more of a project piece that they are falling, maybe again, the same thing as the offensive line question that we had, just maybe it was a rough year, pro days, all those kind of things.
Yeah. I think you look at, if we're looking at the edge rushers, we're going to look at Ole Miss's Princely Uman.
I was waiting for you to mention him.
Yeah. Princely Umanmielen. He really struggled after when it comes to the Senior Bowl and the Combine. Didn't run fast. Everyone expected him to run a really quick 40 because he has that athleticism. Didn't quite do that and started falling down draft boards. Really got shut down at the Senior Bowl during the practices. Had a solid Senior Bowl game, which some might take that over the
practice day itself.
But you also had to look at some of those guys from the offensive line only played part of the games because they are like, okay, we got our draft stock up, we're good. So I think he's one that has fallen down the draft board and probably took himself from a second-round pick to a mid to late third-round pick.
Dang. All right. Well, who's maybe the day 3 pick that you diamond in the rough or good depth piece early on, maybe the first year or two, but towards the end of that, it's going to be the best, one of the, like a solid team player.
Yeah. So we're looking at edge rushers, which edge rushers are incredibly deep this year. It's insane how many edge rushers. I want to say, depending on which one you look at rankings wise, I tend to lean towards CBS when it comes to like the rankings because I think they're a little bit closer. They have 20 guys in the top 110 in this year on their big board. The guy I'm looking at is Kyle Kennard from South Carolina. You go back and if you're going to watch one game, go back and watch the Oklahoma game. What he
it's
did
not
in
a
that
game.
game,
Oh man, he don't. Yeah.
What he did in that game absolutely dominated the game and turned the game on its head from the get-go and put Oklahoma behind the 8 ball right off the bat. He is, for some reason, not getting quite the hype, but the kid is there. I love what he had, the ability he has off the edge. He's super quick, and he's another guy that will help you in the run game also.
Yeah. All right. So I do have one random question. You can pick one player and tell me what's the perfect destination or landing spot for them. Who would that be? You can even do Abdul Carter. I don't care if you're like, hey, he's going, 2 overall. I think it'd be huge. But if there's maybe you even think, day 2, 3 pick that it's like this would be the perfect landing spot.
Let's see here. Let me pull one up real quick.
Yeah, every now and then we got to give Tubby just something random to keep him on his toes. Otherwise, he just gets in that groove. He's like that. He's shooting around. And he's got 3 in a row. You're like, I'm gonna roll him the ball, see what
I'm
happens.
gonna
See if he can still drain this one.
Try to throw him off real quick.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the defensive tackle.
Okay, who we got?
I'm gonna go with Tyleik Williams from Ohio State. This is another super athletic, 330-pound interior off or defensive lineman that can get after the quarterback. Really good run stuffer. I look at a team like I think if you're going to get him probably day 2, second, early third round, I look at a team like maybe the Carolina Panthers to pair him with Derek Brown.
Okay.
They have some issues when it comes to the run game on that defense. I think that if you put those two next to each other, you're looking at 2 incredible defensive tackles and building your defense that way, because the secondary is not quite there. They're going to have a lot of issues there, which I'm sure they'll address. But what we're seeing the NFL trend towards is the run game.
Yeah.
You want those big bodies. Another big guy, like TJ Sanders, may not have quite the mass that some of these guys have, but at 297 pounds, but he fills up the hole. So I think that Tyleik Williams to the Carolina Panthers would be like a match made, because you also got to think about it. Derek Brown ended up with season-ending injury. He's getting on the, not quite older side, but he's been in the NFL for 5 to 6 years. So maybe they're, having to look somewhere else. So instead of spending a high, first, second round pick on him, if he can slide to the third round, you got yourself a guy that probably should have been a second round pick.
Yeah. So I'm gonna do one random here, and I'm gonna cheat here. I'm gonna say that's one of 2 locations for Jack Sawyer.
Okay.
And I'd say perfect destination would be in Detroit. Like, I think Dan Campbell looks at a guy like this and says, "I want him." It's like Bill Belichick looking at a white receiver. I want him. I gotta have him. But also a team that needs someone like him, personality-wise, that could be on the way of transitioning their defense would be the Cincinnati Bengals. This, a day 2 type guy. I think in my mind, a day 2 pick. I don't think, he's going to be a day 1, but Trey Hendrickson on the way out, the style of play is similar to Jack. And I just really like the idea of those landing spots for him. Now, as a Chiefs fan, I don't want him to go either of those places, but I can see this being the absolute perfect one.
Absolutely. I think Jack Sawyer to me makes the most sense for the Cincinnati Bengals. You lose Sam Hubbard. To me, he plays a lot like Sam Hubbard, just more of an edge rusher, more refined when it comes to getting to the quarterback, but is really good in the run game also. And like you said, Trey Hendrickson, we're not quite sure what's going to happen with him. Is he going to stay? Is he going to go? There's still really no clarity. I know the talks have kind of died down because of the asking price, but it's going to come down to the fact, can they pay him what he's wanting after you just paid 2 wide receivers, $200 or $300 million or whatever it was combined.
Yeah, I don't see the Bengals prioritize wide receivers and quarterback. I don't see them doing this. So what better way to restock than go to the draft? All right, final question when it comes to the defensive line. Tell me, what is the star ranking, 1 to 5 star for this class?
This is 5-star.
I knew it.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you go look at these rankings, and so you got on the edge rushers, you got 20 guys in the top 110 players. Then you go look at the defensive tackles, and you throw in another 20 guys total in the top 127. So you got 40 guys in the top 127 picks, ranking wise in this draft class. That tells you how deep this draft class is going to be in the interior. And it's the same thing with this is like the perfect scenario if you're building an organization from the ground up, because you got really good offensive line depth and you got really exceptionally good defensive line depth. Build from the inside out, and you'll find your way. And this is the draft to do it. So if you can amass as many picks in this draft, especially if you need interior, you need those big bodies, those dancing bears. This is the draft.
Dancing bears. You know what coach is about to absolutely destroy this draft?
Who's that?
Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
This is his style.
Yeah.
We talked about this on a previous episode with the running backs and the depth they have. He's just looking and saying, "I'm gonna get 2 running backs. I'm gonna get all the linemen that I want. This is gonna be great."
Yeah. He's loving this. He's like, "Oh yeah, NFL's transitioning back to the run game. I'm gonna go draft a couple.
Just in time.
Give me a couple more offensive linemen. Draft me about 10 defensive linemen, and we'll be good."
Yeah. All right. So, random question: if you were gonna draft one punter, 7th round, Mr. Relevant, who is it gonna be, Tubby?
I haven't even looked at the punters.
It's Oklahoma's punter, Luke Elzinga. That's the only one I know.
I would say that's the only one I would know off the top of my head would be Luke Elzinga.
Yeah, none of them are. Yeah,
he's not even ranked.
Yeah, no, as you should not be drafting punters, but I just thought it'd be funny.
No.
Random, let's try to keep him Tubby on his toes. That's what we do.
Punters.
We are going to continue all of our draft coverage leading up to the draft and then post coverage for the draft. So you don't want to miss any of those. So make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already. Hit that button. Please do that. It's the easiest way to support the channel. And we'll have more. We'll have draft recaps. We'll have draft predictions. We're going to have first round maybe breakdowns from Tubby. So it's gonna be fun. We've done it before, so don't miss it. Tubby, any final thoughts?
No, I'm in my happy place right now.
I can tell. Yeah, I can tell. It's great. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. We'll see you all next time.
See ya.
See ya.